Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up is the adoption of the minutes of our last ledge meeting. I'll take a motion for that. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Thank you very much. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing nobody, all those in favor? Carried. Unanimous. Okay, first up, Community Services Director Rowe.
Thank you, Worship. The first item is a letter from the Vegreville Region Physician and Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee, dated November 2nd, 2021, addressed to yourself and council. Dear Mayor McPhee, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the council for the financial support of our committee in recent years. Your support has been invaluable to enable us to continue to recruit new physicians to our community. Our committee has been very financially prudent with the dollars we have received. For your review and information, we provided a copy of our financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2020, and a copy of our 2022 budget. We're asking the town for continuation of support of $5,000 per year. Our goal is to continue to look ahead of future needs for our community, for doctors and health professionals to ensure needs are addressed. We thank you for your continued support. Yours truly, Brett Bozer, CPA Treasurer of the committee.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Warwick.
I was just going to say that I commend the work that's been done by the committee. I know many communities are having ongoing struggles, and we've done very well to retain doctors, and so I certainly support the work they've done and want to see it moving forward.
Councillor Riddick.
Thank you. Just because Councillor Waters is no longer here as the official representative from council, and there hasn't been a meeting yet, so Councillor Berry is perhaps unaware, there is another physician that's coming. And the majority of the funds are used for health professionals of all types, not just physicians anymore. We are very fortunate in our community, but there are many communities that continue to struggle to have medical professionals such as chiropractors or nurses, healthcare aides, dentists, and so for that reason too, it's multi-purpose health professionals of all sorts. And so the retention is just as important as the recruiting, and we have been very fortunate and continue to have great medical care here.
Okay, Director Rowe.
For council's information, the continued support to this committee has been allocated in the 2022 and 2023 budgets.
Well, 23 yet too. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the reason it's in the 2023 budget is because the council approved a resolution for 3 years of funding in 2021. So
I knew that. I was just hoping that somebody would explain it to everybody else. So, can you maybe provide me a little information? I know later in our agenda there's a letter from the Coal Lake and asking the minister about the procedure when they have to qualify or practice in someplace else other than where they're going. How does that work?
So I won't presume to be an expert, even though I've been on that committee for a long time, because it is a complicated process. And I'm not quite certain that Cold Lake's letter is misplaced or misguided, but the assessment of physicians when they arrive is an important step in the process, and there are different parts of the process. So as medical professionals, physicians, the College of Physicians gets to evaluate the efficacy and the appropriateness of physicians to be able to practice in Alberta, which is important. But it's generally not permitted to be in your own community. So in general, any of the physicians that have come to our clinic, for example, even if they're not international graduates, which means we haven't sponsored them to come from outside of the country for quite a while, they would be permanent residents or Canadian citizens. They can practice wherever they like, but if they are considered permanent residents or international grads, they need to be assessed. And there's only a few sites that are willing to do assessments of physicians, and it also generally needs to be outside of the community. We've been fairly fortunate here in Vegreville. Some of our physicians have gone to Viking or to Two Hills or Wetaskiwin, and some of those placements have been baptism by fire because they're very intense practicums. But it also means that they receive a scope of experience and service before they arrive at the clinic. So I know that Cold Lake continues to have a challenge, and they've been at this game as long as we have. Any community really is in that same game, but the rules for recruitment have changed over the years, and that doesn't pit community against community, which is why the focus of this committee has changed, because it used to be a bidding war. People would pay to be able to entice a physician to come here, and then they would leave after a number of years. So the length of commitment with the Alberta Health that signs the contracts with physicians, as well as the interviewing process, those have all changed. And then the assessment is still yet another procedure. It's a long process, and even the physician that's coming here will have to do a 3-month assessment elsewhere before they're allowed to come here.
Okay, just as long as everybody understands the process, and of course, we voted in favor of providing this funds for the next 3 years, and we know that it makes a difference when we're trying to recruit doctors for our community. And I know that other mayors that I've talked to are very envious of us, of our situation with the amount of medical staff we have, so. But we'll bring that up at the next council meeting. What else do you have, Councillor Rowe?
All right, second item, this is a letter dated November 22nd, RE Northeast Walking Trail Loop Project. Dear Mayor and Council, as a longtime resident and taxpayer in the town of Vegreville, I wanted to reach out to Council regarding the Northeast Walking Trail Loop Project. I know that no project is easy to approve because there's always varying opinions and priorities. I understand that Council decided based upon feedback received requesting additional outdoor spaces. I appreciate that as a council, this took a lot of consideration and planning, and that there were considerations when concerns were expressed, and there were adjustments to the project to try and provide the best outcome for all users and residents. The walking loop, now completed, seems to be highly utilized and provides additional outdoor options, which has been even more beneficial with the current restrictions. I wish to bring forward some concerns with some final steps of the project. It is my understanding that there are plans to install a barrier or gate stopping vehicles from entering. I'm requesting an update as to if the intention to install the barrier is still proceeding. If so, could you provide some information? When is the barrier gate scheduled to be installed? What type of barrier gate will it be? Will it be movable? Will it be locked? If locked, will residents that yards back on the loop be provided a key? While I would like to share some of the reasons I'm requesting these clarifications, while I understand fully that this is a public area to be enjoyed by all residents, it is also true that the residents that have property around the trail have taken great pride over the years and have done their part to maintain the area, often to a higher degree than maintained even by the town. I would question the real need to install a barrier or gate, and would suggest it adds yet another step for the town staff to deal with when they will be doing snow removal. It is also true that several residents, including me, use the back in absence of a back alley to access their properties. This access can sometimes be last minute or outside of regular town hours, so even an option of requesting to be let in does not really solve the problem. While I realize that I may not be a typical form of entry, it is not a new one. It has been this way for many years and has never been addressed as an issue by the town. Many times I have viewed the town making decisions which become a new process, but they consider those under previous systems and often grandfather in properties, and it seems fair that the same should be applied here. Another issue is that I know every effort is always made to apply the same standards to all areas. The usage of public areas to access residents' yards that have no back alleys is not unique to this loop. Several areas, including behind the outdoor rink fields area, have residents that drive on to access their yards, and that is just one example. So to restrict access to just one area's residents while not planning for the same restrictions in all areas would go against the direction we have heard from council about providing consistency and fairness to all. I would question the need at this time to proceed with a barrier gate and believe that the issue is people driving on and ripping up the area, that the gate will not be a complete solution. There are ways for people to drive around or even access from the far side. Attempts to do this could actually result in more damage to the areas and even possibly unsafe situations with accessing from other areas. I would appreciate an update of the town's plans on this issue, and if the town plans to proceed, I would request opportunities for the residents of this area to be a part of the plan going forward. Thank you for your review and consideration of this request. Yours truly, Crystal Kuhn, and signed by a number of people in the area.
Okay, so if you could go ahead and pass out what you have there, Phil, and give us an update on what the plan will be with that area.
All right, what you have in front of you is some concept plans that were drawn up when we first were taking a look and get this project. The first page is an overhead view of what the entry from the west side of the man-made pond, the gravel road. There is going to be a gate, a dual swing gate, and some concrete blocks. If you flip to the other side, you'll see a forward view. So this is what it would look like walking up or driving up the gravel road. So it'll be a split gate in the middle. We would have some concrete barriers, the concrete blocks from Twin Lakes on either side. My plan was, once these blocks are in place, that we would have a community project with the local children to paint these blocks. This won't hinder, the gate actually will not be used for access for parks with the lawnmowers or the sweeper, because they will basically, the walking trail is wide enough to accommodate both the lawnmowers and the sweepers. The gate would be for access for trucks and a big watering truck should they need to go in and water trees. So it's not something that they're going to use on a daily basis for lawn mowing or sweeping. The east side, so along the berm where we built the trail, and it comes down the hill and it slopes off and ties into the St. Mary's. Again, we would look at putting some concrete blocks up there, painting them, and if somebody was to try and access that, they would have to drive through the farmer's field to get up into that area. So, so any questions, I'll answer best I can, but that's what the the original plan was to look like when we went through.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Councilor Bullock, you can start.
I just want to know what the problem was to have this gate put in, or wanting to have this gate put in. I'm unaware of any issues, so I'm just wondering what's going on. Sorry, I just don't know.
So we had decided that we were gonna put a gate in there to stop any vehicles from driving in and around there. There were people that were storing personal equipment on the park area. So when we did all these, when we did the trail renovation and planted some new grass, that was our original decision or plan, was to put a gate there to limit access into the back area and not have it torn up. Because there are some areas where you can see where trucks are driving, and some of them were town trucks. And again, this would be limited to for the parks crew entering. They'll be changing their process, so they won't be going in with trucks to pick up garbage anymore. The new garbage cans in the spring, when they're placed, they'll be able to just pull up with the small Kubota, drive through, pick up the garbage. Same with the sweeping, same with the lawn mowing. So it was basically to restrict vehicle access driving back there.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead.
So with the plan, if in theory, could it proceed forward as is and the gate be an installation later? Like if it was left open without the gate to see whether the gate is necessary, but could the rest of the spots be in place, like the barriers and whatnot?
Can you read?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, as the plan that you have, would it be possible to set it up with the cement barriers, but have the spacing as it is, but not necessarily place the gate and see whether the gate is required for later time?
We could, the gate is being made in-house by the Parks Department. So basically, it's two concrete posts that they'll be installing and a new gate. Because they're building a new gate for the southeast, or the southwest walking trail. Again, to limit quad access that's going on the back end of the trail. So they're rebuilding the gate for there this winter themselves, so.
Okay, Councilor Rudick?
So I appreciate the effort to get all of the neighborhood to sign this letter, because I know that even when we started this process, there was some concern from some of the residents, and some of the residents that specifically asked for the gate are actually on this list,
If
which
some
is
of these
interesting.
people on the list have complained to me about trucks that were driven in there and were stealing, so I'm a little surprised myself, but.
So I think what I would see there is that what we've heard is maybe conflicting opinions and positions that maybe indicate, again, even when we started this process about going out there, I think we can always try to achieve a better job of integrating people's input and making sure that we're maintaining safety and the integrity of the area. But I wonder if there isn't worth another look. So for example, that southeast area, the gates are there, but it doesn't stop the people that are still using the quads and wrecking they're wrecking the walkway, and they've already wrecked the gate or the bridge a couple of times, and they continue to be of concern to my neighbors that tell me repeatedly that same time every day, those quads are out there, and I don't know that the gates will stop that. So for that reason too, maybe Councillor Warwa's suggestion and or the consideration that there are people on this list that again have specifically asked that there be gates. They're signing this list as well, that maybe we just need to do a little further investigation and see what it is actually that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, we'll just let him answer that, then we'll go to you, Councilor Barry.
Yes, you're correct with the southwest, but we are, the new portion, it's almost impossible to stop that, but the back portion, once we get some blocks in place and the new gate on both far sides, they'd have to drive through the swamp. So we've looked at it many times, and we've come up with a solution for there. With the man-made pond, we've put in for a Transcanada grant to plant trees as was requested. So once all the new trees are in place, it'll be difficult for homeowners to even drive through there, because we're going to be putting quite a few trees back in there.
Councilor Barry?
Thank you, Your Worship. I recall that when we were actually talking with residents out there, there was concern that vehicles were being driven right up through there and down towards the little lake, accessing even in the wintertime and such. And the gate was looked on a positive point. When it comes to guaranteeing access to the back of a yard, I don't think the town has ever guaranteed the back access to somebody's backyard, particularly when there's no alleys. I don't think we condone people accessing over public land and parkways to get to their backyards when they don't have a back alley. So I think the letter here suggests that we might want to apply standards to all areas, and I would say the standard that I would apply is that there's no access to those backyards. And that would be the point of it, because this is a public area, it is a park, and it should be maintained and treated as a park. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Lemko, and then Councilor Curtis, you might want to jump in there after Councilor Lemko, okay? Go ahead, Councilor Lemko.
Yeah, I'd like to, first of all, thank the residents for the letter, because it's a tough situation, a decision for us to ponder. Although I do agree with Councillor Barry, and it's a park, needs to be looked at that. It's probably going to be a legacy park where trees will be and that. So I sympathize. I know it's something you've done for years and years and years, and it was like a little while ago when we had to move fences because of encroachment. That's tough when you have a fence that you've had in the backyard for years encroaching on town property, and that had to be moved back. And unfortunately, there are other residents in the community that don't have back alleys, and I sympathize with that. I know how it would affect me, but we need to move forward as a community and a council. It's a park, and that's my position.
Okay, Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, as mentioned in the letter, if the opportunity for a key or to request the gate to be open, if access is necessary, will be looked at or allowed, or if we are just going to put it as there's no vehicles back there other than town vehicles.
Okay, we'll discuss that. So, last thing I want to do is encourage people to drive in our parks. I mean, Mrs. Kuhn brought up the fact that behind the ODR, people are allowed to drive there. No, they're not. No one's allowed to drive there. I don't expect anybody to drive behind my house in that park. I mean, should I park my motorhome over there? Certainly not. I had this conversation with Mrs. Kuhn a while ago, and she likes to bring wood through there. That park will be developed into a very nice park as we move forward with this. Having access, because it happened before, or it was allowed, or we turned a blind eye to it, doesn't mean it's a guarantee that what people can have. If there's a legitimate request to gain access to your backyard, if you're doing something that needs to get put over the fence or something, I'm sure that we could entertain those type of request by providing a key. I'm very surprised at some of these names. There's some of these names in there have complained to me about trucks running through there in the middle of the night. And so I'm a little confused about it. I mean, I never once said that we wouldn't be able to grant access to there if the need arose. They would have to be right, that the conditions, I mean, there's been a lot of complaints about ruts over there, and half those complaints were from our town employees. So we have increased the standard and told our employees, you do not drive in there for no reason, because it's a park. So moving forward, my view is that we are not encouraging people to drive in our parks. And as far as fairness to all, I wouldn't expect that I would, if I was allowed, that I would want anybody driving behind my house in a park. That would not be the right thing to do. But I do not see it being a problem that we could grant them access on occasions if they needed to get there for a reason. But just for everybody to be driving in and out of a park that we're going to develop into a very nice place, I really don't see us doing that right now. And as far as her thoughts that people will be jumping over the berm and through the field and stuff, well, if there is anybody doing that, they will be dealt with. Because right now, it's against the law to drive in our parks. That's why we put up barriers all over our parks so nobody can drive in them. Now, if there was a request for somebody to get in and there was a gate and it made sense, I don't know why we wouldn't do it. So that's my thoughts. I would say that if there was a request and it made sense, that we would offer them a key and they would bring the key back when they're done, if the conditions of the ground were right. Go ahead, Councillor Warwick.
You know, I know you said, Your Worship, you're surprised by some of the names, but I would suggest that maybe some of the names aren't necessarily that they are opposing the gate. There's a lot of questions asked in here. So I think the names that might be on there are asking for answers to the questions. So it may not necessarily be that they're opposing it, because like you said, some of them might have brought it to you before as concern, but the way the letter is written, there is a number of questions as to how the access would be, whether it's movable, whether it's not. So for some, they might just have interest as to whether it's a movable gate or not. So, you know, I would think that probably an easy step back would be to be able to go back to them with what the basic plan is and then ask if there's feedback. It doesn't mean changing it or not allowing it, but I think that that might be the reason for some of the signatures versus necessarily opposing. I do know myself that I have seen some areas, certainly not behind your house because that would be strange there. I have seen a number of vehicles that have driven on by the ODR though. Driving past there, they literally do drive not only on the ODR side, but I've seen them drive up through the soccer field, up over that one and right up against there. So that would probably be a very tough spot for the people that are across the road that would be seeing that because it has happened. So I think that's something we would want to state that if we're stopping that, it would be our intention to stop it wherever it would be seen.
I would certainly hope so. I would hope that when someone breaks the law, and the law is that we don't allow people to drive in our parks. And if we have to put barriers up to stop it, then that's what we'll do. Or we'll have the police or municipal enforcement charge these people. I mean, that's not what I'm saying here and in this situation. And you're right, maybe we need to, I've talked to two of these people and I told them that there would be probably an access to a key that are on here and they said, well, okay.
And that's my only suggestion. I just don't think it's automatically in opposition because it's just there's a number of questions being asked and addressed, and I think being able to go back and giving them the plan might very well answer the question on a lot of them.
Okay, Councilor Reddick?
Yeah, and I do think that this is one of our first attempts at community engagement in a specific neighborhood that has a positive implementation and had unexpected consequences. So when we had the encroachment issue a number of years ago, most people were very angry. This is a different interaction, and I think because there are a number of different questions in here, this allows us an opportunity for us to be able to assess do we have a policy or a practice in place that actually states, so I would assume that there are bylaws that say that we don't drive in our parks, but do we have a policy? Has it just been the practice always? And again, this particular neighborhood has always had access to the common area in the back, so this is a change. And I don't think it's a bad thing for us to re-engage with the public, and maybe it's first an explanation or a drawing sent out to them again and asking for some feedback. Because again, people don't know, and they have lived there, some of them from the very beginning of that establishment of that neighborhood. So do we have a policy? Is there a practice? And can we share this?
It's a very good thought. I mean, I would think it's against the law within our community to drive in parks.
I honestly don't know. I'll look in and get an answer to that, if there is a policy or a bylaw.
Okay, so then can you work on an explanation to these people? Mm-hmm. And we'll get it out there, and if we don't have a bylaw that says that we don't allow people to drive vehicles in parks unless they have permission, then we better get one ready. Anything, Councilor Curtis? You're good? Okay, so to move forward, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get an explanation to these homeowners that are on this petition about what the plan will be and how they can access it, and we can't put in exactly where all the tree locations are gonna go until the grant money comes forward, but I know there's a lot more gonna be happening there. There's gonna be more tables installed, and hopefully we're gonna get some lights. I know we have applied for some grants for some solar lights and stuff for that whole area, so, I mean, we have big plans for it, and another thing we have to do is we have to pick a name for it.
Yeah.
So we better get that contest rolling pretty quick, so. Okay, so that's what we'll do moving forward on that issue. Okay, thank you. The next one is derelict houses.
Thank you, Worship. I believe this is going to be coming up in one of the council reports, and this was brought forth to me back in the spring of 2021. So I thought I would generate a memo for council to start the discussion on this. In the spring of 2021, contact was made with Brownlee LLP for consultation and legal advice on the process for derelict homes and the process for eradicating derelict houses in the community, and it is as follows. So number one, the town must send a letter to the registered owner with clear instructions on the maintenance of the property. And this is done under section 545 of the MGA. So we need to tell them basically exactly what we want done, when it needs to be done by, or have a plan in place with a reasonable time frame, and what the consequences are if this work is not completed. If the time period lapses and the work is not done or a reasonable plan in place, the town must send a letter to the registered owner stating it will seek the legal authority through the courts to enter the premises and complete the work. This is, of course, after fines can be issued under the Community Standards Bylaw. This is different from property maintenance, so I just wanted to let council know we do grass, we do unsightly yards, and we do snow on sidewalks, and we can go in and enter that property with the appropriate notice under section 542 and 549 of the MGA, and that gives us the authority to go in and clean the property if they have not maintained it after we've sent them a notice to do it themselves, and we do what's called a notice of entry. But doing anything to the structure itself requires a court order, because we're basically taking their property and potentially doing work. Once the court grants permission based on our full due diligence, the town would have to tender a contractor to complete the demolition work, disposal and reclamation of the land. Once the work has been completed, the invoice for the work would be sent to the registered owner for payment. So the town cannot invoice the registered owner for the legal or court fees unless the court determines that, or a certain percentage. If the registered owner pays the bill, that's all fantastic. If they don't pay the invoice, then the process would start to add that amount to the tax roll. And we've seen these processes before. The concern that has been seen with other municipalities is that unless the property is of great value, this process is a difficult decision. The town may never recoup the value of the property, especially that these neighborhoods these homes are in. The legal and court costs, we may have to incur them, we may not. The process takes a lot of administrative time. Once the process is started to rectify these derelict homes, it has to be followed through to completion. So we can't send them a letter saying that we require this to be done, and that if it doesn't, basically stop. We have to follow through with this. So there has been 5 homes that have been identified. You can see the homes that are there, the pictures and their addresses. The first one is, of course, the one that was involved in a fire of November 29th, 2017. The issues in there is that squatters, people are pulling the boards apart and entering that structure in the wintertime to seek shelter. Cats and birds are nesting in this structure all year long. And I believe this is the one that's going to be brought up in a report. And the other ones, not inhabitable. Cats and varmints through broken windows seem to be the major issues and complaints that municipal enforcement is dealing with in these houses. Majority of them are not inhabitable, roofs caving in, no windows, and are becoming a safety hazard. So basically this is in front of council to give me some direction as to which way we want to start moving forward on these homes.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So who would like to speak on this issue? Councilor Lemke, would like to start?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Phil, for the information. And this, Phil's referring to coming up later in the report, but it's myself who was asked by a resident who lives next to the house with the fire. And his concern is that over the course of time, the place has become that cats and mouse and birds and all that, but more importantly now, it's being broken down and people are using it as a place to find some comfort against the elements. And now, as it gets colder, we may see that people are burning stuff in there to stay warm, or some means of keeping warm. His concern is that it's just that it's been a long time since this house has been that. And this past weekend, it was broken into again, and there's nothing being done. Is what his concern is. That can't something be done? He's also trying to sell his property, which is probably right next door, so he can move into a facility, St. Anne's Manor or something like that. And these other ones, if you look at the pictures, they're an eyesore. And you're talking, if the town isn't going to do this, more homes may move forward. Well, do we want to be known as a place that allows houses in dilapidated condition to grace our streets in the community? So we should. And I don't know, when you talk about how much it costs, I don't know, I don't have a dollar figure in front of me, and administration time, it's legitimate that there is gonna be cost, but I don't know how, to what extent. So is that cost worth cleaning up a little bit of our community and welcoming others into it? So that's just my opinion.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Lemko. So in response to, if people buy these homes are noticing, especially if people are breaking into them, that to call the RCMP, because that is a criminal issue. It is breaking, entering, squatting in there. So, they have the right to call the RCMP and report it, and they'll be dealt with right there and then, as opposed to waiting, because there's really not much we've alerted the RCMP and municipal enforcement to go look at this and see. But chances are, like say, if the weather warms up a little bit, they're gone. And to actually catch them in there, it has to be reported to the RCMP, and they'll go deal with it because it is a criminal offense. So.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Councillor Bullock first, and then Councillor Berry.
Well, I actually think myself that it would be worth the looking into to see what can be done to get the process started, to get these people to maybe do something about their properties and stuff like that. And if they're not gonna fix them, they should maybe really start thinking about cleaning them up. Really, like it's not safe, obviously. It gets broken into, burns down, takes someone else's house with it when it starts burning. Clean it up, there's a cost. Sure there is, but then they have a saleable lot after it's cleaned up.
Okay, Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe if we were to go back to our sustainability plan and our strat plans and et cetera, we can find a number of different areas there where we're looking at the safety of the community, the beautification of the community, et cetera, that we shouldn't be tolerating these derelict houses just sitting there and becoming an eyesore and a safety issue. I don't think it's particularly safe to leave them there. So I would want to look into this and see how we can start addressing them and get some of them cleaned up. There's a number of them around, and we should be looking into it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Rudick.
I realize that this is a spot in the MGA that other municipalities have identified as problematic, because if there are chronic squatter houses, this is the first time in the history of council, I think, that I've seen varmint on any of our documents, so that's why I was smiling. But I do think that this is an issue that has arisen largely because there is no way for us to enforce it unless we incur the cost as a municipality. So in Fort McMurray or Slave Lake, when there were properties like that first one that were on fire and then never addressed if they didn't have insurance and there was no redress, so the property was never dealt with, you could literally have houses that were rebuilt and there would be a gap-toothed smile. Everybody else has beautiful smile, and then there would be a hole in the neighborhood. And that's, I think, kind of what this illustrates, is that we do have an issue in the MGA that doesn't allow us specific teeth, to use that term again. But I think I've had a complaint a number of times about house number 4 on the list here, from people that are concerned that it's incumbent upon them to mow their lawn or shovel their snow, and yet this house is literally collapsing in on itself and creating a safety hazard for the neighborhood. So I would be in favor of definitely looking to see what we can do next. But I also think that when we have an opportunity to bring this up to the province again, that this is an issue for the MDA, because if we are expecting community standards to be maintained, this certainly is a higher value in terms of importance, I would say.
Okay, so what we're looking for here is on Monday night, we're looking for Director Rowe to bring us a recommendation that we start the process. And everybody understands that once we start the process, we don't go back. So we're probably gonna incur most of the costs on this, and it'll go on the tax bill, and eventually we'll own the lots, and we'll have one way to collect the money back. Probably we will not get awarded the legal, or what we spend legally. So we'll start with some fines, first of all, and when the fines aren't paid, the fines will go against the property tax, and then we'll have to go in and have a contractor clean this up, take it to the landfill, and so the tipping fees, the contractor fees, all those other fees, we can get back through property tax, or the sale of the property eventually, then we'll get paid. So everybody understands that. Councillor Curtis, you have any questions about the process and moving forward?
No, I'm understanding well, and just, if we're looking to move the town forward, increase property values, the safety hazard of it, I mean, we have to incur it to start, and then we plan on recouping it later. Some things take time, but, as we grow the town, I'm predicting we're gonna sell lots, and then things are gonna move forward, so I'm in favor of this.
Okay, so if that's the case, then Phil, on Monday, you bring forward a recommendation that we start the process on all of these properties. And, did you have something you want to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm not opposed to it in any way. The hard process, I've just been through this on past experience with councils. Once you do decide to do that, you cannot pick and choose. Then once they hit a certain criteria, you have to keep going, or you really do open yourself up for huge issues. Again, I'm not opposing it. I have seen this in my past experience, and you certainly don't want to be in a position where it appears you've decided. So certainly if we commit, it is a full commitment forward, so.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Cliff first.
Just a question for council. In the recommendation, do you want all of the properties listed, or do you want to start with certain ones?
Well, I think if we're starting with all of them.
Start with all, okay, just so that we know, because you can select and do 1 or 2 a year if you choose to continue the process, but if you want, all of the properties then can be included. Okay.
Councillor Bullock.
I think also if we're involving all the properties at one time, when it gets down to the road, if you end up, let's say, getting all the properties, maybe you can get a bid out the contracting for a whole package deal to take them down. You probably get some savings that way.
Okay, Councillor Lemko, you're up next.
Yeah, in conjunction with starting the process, it would be nice to have a process or a policy that would tell us how we identify a derelict house. What criteria is used to do that, so you can come up with 2 years from now, this house here, if nothing's done, will become a derelict house, as an example. Because right now, these were derelict because they actually are that, but if there's properties that are coming forward.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Berry first, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you, Worship. I would agree with Councillor Lemko on that point. I would also agree with Councillor Bullock that we take these 5 that are sitting here right now that have been described to us and act on them all at the same time. And then if we did have a policy as to how a home becomes identified as derelict, that might be well known to the public, that if they keep letting their residents, or not really their residents, I guess their property, slide by and go worse and worse and worse, that it will be declared derelict. And they'll understand that the process will be coming after them in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Director Rowe, is there probably a scale that the province or the health authorities in this province have when they deem a house unlivable?
So, yes, public health has their criteria, the safety codes has their criteria. For the town, 14.2 M of our community standards bylaw, any exterior damage or deterioration to a building, including but not limited to peeling unpainted and untreated surfaces, missing siding, shingles, windows, doors, or any other hole or opening in the building. And then it goes on about fences as well. The land use bylaw, 1.14, the design and character and appearance of all buildings and structures shall be reviewed from time to time by the Development Authority Officer for external appearance and finish for any neglect, damage, fading of paint to at least 50% of the building, or any unsightliness that is unsatisfactory to the Development Authority Officer or to council. So, there is an issue with, not as bad in town here about hoarder houses that the health authorities are dealing with, because you could have a nice looking house that has hoarding inside, and it's a public health issue. So they have the safety codes. When you look at these ones with the roofs collapsing, that's now becoming a safety codes issue that can be. So there's multiple avenues that we can go in, and again, it's just having that direction that we're going to start, and I'll outline the whole process for this, and I'll look into a policy for identifying what is an uninhabitable house. But again, it sounds like council's pretty committed that once we start this process, we have to finish it and see it through, so.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll see something on Monday regarding these 5 houses to start the process. I would strongly recommend that when we start this process, we use more than our community standards bylaw, that we bring in the province and have them identify that the house as unlivable or whatever as well, not just our bylaws, okay? Okay. Anybody else? You're good? Counselor Curtis, you're good. Thumbs up, attaboy. Okay, so, sorry, attaboy. Okay, so, up next is Director Lefebvre, and regarding a street light. So I do believe that Councilor Curtis is going to take a back seat here because of his employment with ATCO, so he will be tuning out for a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Roger. This is a request for street lighting on 58th Avenue from Mark Boissard. I'll read it out. To whom it may concern, I'm submitting a request for an additional street light on 58th Ave. After turning right off 50th Street, heading north on 58th Ave, there is a short stretch with mailboxes on the right-hand side. This area can get very dark and be potentially hazardous for pedestrians in particular. I would appreciate it if the lighting at this location would be assessed and appropriate measures taken. Thank you for looking at this matter. Sincerely, Mark Boissard. So on the next page up, I've included where the existing street lighting is. So as you look at the center, you can see where it says mailboxes. So those are the mailboxes he's referring to. So from 49A Street west to 50th Street on 58th Ave is where he feels it is dark, if that makes sense. So from the mailboxes up to 50th Street. We have contacted ATCO Electric. They did do an assessment and say that yes, the lighting on that area doesn't meet their lighting patterns because there is no lights. And if the town would like to meet the standards, then the town will have to pay for the installation, and the recommendation would be 3 lights, which would be on the next 2 pages. So I didn't put all the existing lights in the whole neighborhood. I just put the lights that are really close to this area to show you the spacing that they have.
They're recommending 3 lights.
It's on the very last page.
I see it there, yeah.
They're recommended 3 lights. After available investments, it would be a cost of $21,500, including the GST, to the town for the installation of the 3 lights. And again, on the last page is showing where ATCO recommends that the lights be installed.
So, any discussion? We'll start with Councillor Riddick.
So can you just briefly explain for all of us here, as well as anybody that's watching, so this citizen has written a letter, but of course, I'm sure all of us have been approached by people that are concerned about the appropriateness or the brightness of the lights. So can you explain what the process is? I mean, we have a direct indication that there isn't appropriate lighting there, but there is also the cost in this instance, but it also could be absorbed in other ways. So can you just do a brief explanation of how the lighting is provided or assessed? I guess both.
It would be ATCO Electric assesses the lighting. This is obviously something that was missed many, many years ago when the subdivision was created to provide ample lighting through ATCO Electric would have approved it at that time. So it hasn't been done, and now they're asking for it. So when we approached ATCO Electric, they did an assessment, says yes, to meet the lighting standards, we need these 3 lights, and they would be new LEDs. And so the process is now we've got a formal, even though it's an email, it's considered a formal request for lighting, and we put a cost behind it, and we bring it up to council to determine if this is something we're going to invest in, or is this something that you're going to put onto the 2023 budget discussions? And we'll decide then if that's something we can balance with our finances, or we just stop the procedure now.
Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. Would these particular lights be owned by the town, or would these be the other form where ATCO continues to own the standards and we just pay a fee?
Yeah, any lights, current lights that are damaged or destroyed or hit and knocked down, or if they hit complete end of life and have to be replaced, or any lights that are new installs are all invested through ATCO Electric, and they would be the owner. So our monthly rate would increase, but then ATCO would have responsibility for all maintenance of the lights forever.
But we're responsible for the installation cost.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would it be feasible just to place one light in the vicinity of where his concern is that's solar driven?
It is a consideration. The solar lighting would only be something that would satisfy the actual illumination of the mailbox. Because solar lighting is not going to meet the standards an LED would for ATCO Electric for a proper lighting pattern.
I guess my concern is I believe there's a few other areas in town that might not meet those standards as well, because they've been pointed out to me by citizens that feel that an area from their back alley and et cetera is by far too dark, and there's been several robberies in the area. Mm-hmm. So are we going to do an assessment of the entire town?
Well, and that's the big question here, no matter what. If you look at the standard that ATCO is applying to this one half a block right here, it's better than anything else in the town. Their standards have risen since the lights were put in. But the biggest question is between not invested, that we own lights, and invested. And we're still sitting on waiting to make some decisions. And I'm kind of hoping that ATCO is going to come pretty soon with that discussion for us, because we'd like to get the LED lights in our town. And they made a proposal once to us, and it was over a certain amount of money, and it was quite shocking. So we stood back and we said we need some time to think about it. But no matter what, we need to have that conversation, and included in that conversation is that the standard at which ATCO would like to see lighting, to put 3 pieces in that short half a block there, where would the rest of the town, we'd have to put another 900 lights. So, I mean, this is not feasible. Go ahead, Cliff.
Just to follow up on the presentation from ATCO, they are prepared to come out in the first part of the new year to make their presentation on the LED lighting.
Okay, so no matter what, I appreciate the request here, and there is some other places in town that we've all heard about. So as we move forward in the new year, I think we should all be aware of what's going on. And when they make their presentation, And, because I don't know if everybody in council knows that we own some of the lights and they own some of the lights. Yeah, so invested and non-invested. And their proposal will be that they will take over all the lights. So it'll all be invested on their side. So, and again, so the cost, the monthly bill is probably 8 times more than what it is today. But looking forward, how we're gonna move forward is our non-invested lights are getting to that point where they need to be replaced. And there's still a bill for the power that goes to them, and we probably hire them to do any maintenance or change bulbs and stuff. So it's a total package, and it's something that's long-term, that we need to look at it in that aspect, that it's gonna be a long-term investment. And we need to start identifying some of these spots. So I think what we should do is just wait until we have that discussion with ATCO, and then we'll start applying some math to this and how we feel moving forward, if it's all at once or if it's smaller pieces that we can take. But then again, we'll need to identify some other areas in town too. I don't think we could ever live up to ATCO's new standards, though. I mean, 3 on that little half a block is.
Do surgery on that block.
So is there, oh, go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
So I think that's fine to wait, because I do feel like there's more to this than just this one neighborhood. So if we've got a presentation from ATCO coming in the new year, then we can communicate with this individual and just let them know that we appreciate that it isn't sufficient lighting, but it's part of a bigger project. My other question would be, what I was told in the past is that residents should take a picture and put it into our website. If they have so in the past, if there's a construction issue with the road, or there's a light area that needs to be identified, can we just be sure that on our website it's easy for them to access? Because I know that it is easy to provide the input into our website for people to be out and about, because that's how it works. People are driving around and they see something and they can provide input. It says contact us, but I think it's not necessarily clear to citizens if they have an issue that they can put it on there, rather than just us having a motley group of addresses or areas. It'd be nice to have a more comprehensive list when we're meeting with ATCO as well.
Well, that sounds like a very good plan. So you're saying, no, don't phone the mayor. There you go.
Well, that is the intention, and I was just going through old emails again and trying to file some things, and for example, road construction issues. People are more likely to use their smartphone and send a picture and a message. Sorry, Sandra, thank you.
Currently, right now, our app is set up to take e-service requests. We'll discuss with Jameson. Our website developer is the word I'm looking for. They have sold out, and it's gone to a new company that we are working with, and so there are a few changes that they are incorporating. So once we have a handle on exactly what changes have been made to the app itself, we will do out a media blitz on how the e-service request works. And that way, because with your smartphone, you can just take a picture and send it off right there and then. There's no adding to your emails or anything like that, like there is on the website.
Okay. So we'll wait until we get the presentation from ATCO. We'll let them know, I guess, Cliff, that that we'd like to get that meeting and tell them don't scare us this time. Sandra, can you send Councillor Curtis come back to the meeting signal? Okay, thank you very much, Director Lefebvre. Next up, Paul Casey, Corporate Service Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on here is a transfer to carry forward operating reserves. So this is that will come to council on Monday for approval for transfer of $448,106 from the 2021 budget year into 2022, and will be used in 2022 and is reflected in our 2022 budget. The second item is at a request that will come to council to transfer funds out of the fire capital reserve to the fire training center project of $20,565.34. This is because this money was raised by the fire department for that specific project, and we stuck it in the capital reserve, and now we need to move it back to that operating account for them.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of the two pieces here? About the reserve, the money going back in the reserve, which will be brought forward in the 2022 budget for exactly what it was allocated for last year, but didn't get done. No questions, so that'll be up on Monday. And does everybody understand about the money that was raised by the fire department? Councillor Curtis, were you aware of this?
No, I was not.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, and Finance Director Saskew is going to talk about the last item on the agenda for me, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Casey. So I'm going to read a letter out, or an email out, asking for some council consideration on a tax penalty. I am contacting you on the advice of Kara McDonald to explain why I have not yet paid my municipal taxes and to ask a favor. First, let me assure you that I have every intention of paying my taxes, but I need time and will explain why. For the past 3 years, I've been slowly and patiently building a small business in Vegreville. I'm 68 years old and have been receiving CPP, OAS, and GIS. The total amount, approximately $1,800 per month, did not permit me to live in luxury, but I got by okay and was always able to pay my bills. Just as I was about to open the doors, so to speak, on my business when COVID hit and slammed those doors shut. My business is a supersized DJ service, and I call a mobile discotheque and take any such service only works in large, intimate social gatherings, so obviously I was shut down totally. In 2020, the federal government rolled out extremely timely, generous, and compassionate financial assistance for people like me. I applied for these benefits and was approved. The government made it clear that, with the exception of anyone who fraudulently received the funds, these funds did not have to be paid back. Unfortunately, there is one very vulnerable group of people who are, in essence, being forced to pay back the benefits. People like me, senior citizens who live well below the poverty line, those receiving and depending on GIS. According to government logic, if I did not need GIS in 2020, I'm disqualified from receiving it in 2021. The reality is that the COVID benefits have long since stopped and I do need GIS. The loss of income, which I'm fully entitled to, has reduced my monthly income to $1,200. This is nowhere near enough to support a home and a family. As I understand the situation, I will not be eligible for GIS again until mid-2023. I doubt I can last that long. In this sense, senior citizens who are extremely poor are the only Canadians being forced to repay COVID benefits. I'm not asking you to take my taxes or make my taxes go away, but the penalties and interest, which are not actually necessary, that are piling up, are not going to make it easier to get caught up. Last week I succeeded in putting insurance on my home and vehicle for the first time in a year, but it is not easy. Please give my problem some consideration and see what you can do to make the disastrous situation a little bit easier for me if you can. So that's the letter, and I've pulled up the printout for this property in itself, and the penalty that was assessed on October 1st, because we had extended the deadline for taxes to be September 30th this year, was $145.66. So those are the only penalty and interest that has been assessed on this roll at this time. So obviously not significant. In the past, there's been no administrative error in this account.
Okay. Anybody like to chime in? Councillor Barry, you can be first.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a difficult situation, and there is no administrative error, and I'll start with that right there, which means that we normally don't consider making any exceptions. I think the situation is once again, it's the federal government that's unclear with the policies that they're using, where individuals can believe that the benefits weren't going to be clawed back. The difference that we have here is that knowing how GIS works, how OHA works, because I'm a senior, when you make more than a certain amount of money, even if you're operating your own self-employed business or working somewhere else, the first thing that you lose is the GIS. And because that's the conditions that they have. So what I want to say is I'd want the individual, and if there's any way that we can help them, I'm not certain how to direct them because it's difficult right now to get a hold of federal services. It is feasible to make a request of federal government to reassess his payments for 2022 and 2023 by having them estimate his current income and not use his past income. There is a way of making that request, and it's not really an appeal, but you can. It's on their website. It actually says is that in these cases they can set your benefit payment by estimating your income for the current year instead of using last year's income. So where the benefits for COVID has struck him, making him lose his GIS, then what he needs to do is apply for this exception where they don't take that into consideration for an entire year to put him off, but they can estimate what has been done. I say this with confidence because I actually had to do it a number of years ago when I was a contractor and self-employed, and my contract expired. So I actually requested and they gave it to me. That's about 15 years ago. They're still using the same process. So it's really a difficult situation to say that we can forgive the taxes. But I will ask one other question though here. I believe there's another penalty starting on the 1st of January, is there not?
That is correct. It'll be 15% of all unpaid balances.
Because there's no administrative error, our standard is that we don't excuse it, but I'm just not, I feel for this individual because I know exactly what he's going through. But is there any way that we can try and get him the information that he needs to be going through the federal government, through Services Canada, and getting applications and getting granted that he will get his GIS back based on an estimate of this year's income? Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Lemko.
Yes, is this gentleman in arrears for the tax roll or just the penalty?
They haven't made any tax payment as of this year. So they had their 2021 assessment. In October 1st, we assessed the penalty, and so there's been no former payments since then.
Yeah, we suggest for them to go to Alberta Supports, but we know the story there. The business is, the place is closed, and but if we can do something, certainly it'd be nice to reach out and help a little bit if we have contact information or something like that.
I think that maybe Councillor Warlock might be able to give him some advice.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have we have basically, set our standard before that if there is an administrative error, we can't move forward on that side. However, if you have the contact information, if you could provide them the contact to their local MP's office, if they contact in with their social insurance number, date of birth, and full spelling of their name according to their government ID, a member from the office can look into their file and ask for any documents.
Okay. We all know where we're at when it comes to tax penalties, and we can't open that Pandora's box up, but try to help the best we can here, so. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments on that? Okay, next up is the CAO, Cliff Craig.
The draft fees and charges bylaw is going to be handled by our interim corporate services director.
Well, look at that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I am going to go through the changes to the bylaw from the prior year. So if everyone has it open, moving first to page 4 is Schedule A, administrative fees. There's been no changes. Page 5, Schedule B, airport fees and charges. So the previous council has set rates for lot leases and tie downs up until 2023. So these have been updated according to the schedule that was previously set. The remainder of the fees have increased by the regular 3% annually. Moving to page 6 is Schedule C, Aquatics fees and charges. So there's been no changes to the child drop-in and monthly passes, but the student, adult, and senior have increased by approximately 5% from our last bylaw. And they also removed, there used to be a noon special drop-in of just a rate of, let's say, $4. Now they've moved that to a punch pass. So if you want to be doing the noon drop-ins, you can buy a 10 punch pass or a 20 punch pass. So I think that's just to facilitate quick, like timely entry for people that are doing a noon hour swim or workout. On page 7, same thing, these are the monthly passes. They have also been the increase at about the 5%, with the exception of the child. And onto page 8, there was no changes. Page 9, Schedule D, arena admission fees and charges. The most notable changes are to junior hockey. So it used to be $143 per hour for games and practice, and now it's been updated to $180 per hour for games and $80 per hour for practice. So that's the one change. And then the elementary school use, the per student fee is now $2, and the 6 to 12 has remained the same at $250. Shinny hockey and public skating have also increased slightly. Adult has increased by $1, child by $1, and then same thing, public skating, all ages drop-in has increased $1 to $3. No questions on that. Okay, continuing on, I'm gonna skip ahead to page 12 now. Schedule F, business license fees. So on this page, there has been an addition of a business license transfer. So that's change of name, change of address, or owner, and that's a $25 fee. They have also put in an addition of non-resident general contractor fee, and that's $1,000. And there's also been the removal of, there used to be, under non-resident business, there's a 1 day, a 1 year fee. There also used to be a 1 week fee of $150, and that has been removed on this new schedule. So you could either buy a daily license or an annual license as a non-resident business. Yes.
Can we go back to the non-resident general contractors of $1,000? So that's anybody coming to town that is building a building in town that's using other services, other contractors under them. So it's $1,000.
It is 1,000 if they have 2 or more subcontractors underneath them. And that fee has always been there. It just got missed being put into the listing last year. So it's not new. We just made sure it was printed this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Okay, so moving on, Schedule F is business license. So Schedule G, campground fees have not changed. Cemetery fees on Schedule H, page 15, have not changed. Criminal record and live scan fees and charges, Schedule I, has not changed. Dog fees and charges, Schedule J, has not changed. Fire fees and charges have not changed, page 18. FOIP fees, page 19, no changes. Page 20 is Schedule M, labor equipment vehicle rental rates. There has been the deletion of Unit 60, as I've been told it's no longer operational. And we have added Unit 534, a Hitachi loader for $156.45 per hour. And then the Unit 542, a John Deere crawler loader with and without, or with operator and with ripper, has been added to this page as well. Moving on, Schedule N, library complex rental fees and charges have not changed. Multiplex fees and charges have not changed. Schedule P, so I'm on page 24, municipal enforcement fees and charges, there's been a slight increase. So patrol services, level 1, has increased from $78 to $81. And patrol unit per kilometer has increased from 72 cents per kilometer to 75 cents. Schedule Q, planning and development fees. There hasn't actually been too many changes. They've condensed to one rate used to break out the subdivision applications. There used to be one for 4 lots or less, an application fee of $150. Now it's just a straight application fee of $300, and then the remainder of, like, there is still like the more than 4 lots, the plan cancellation, 4 lots or less, is $300. So that's the only changes on that page. And they've also removed, they had photocopy fees that they've removed from the schedule, so those were small. Schedule R, signage permit fees have not changed. Schedule S, snow haul has not changed. And then social center has not changed, this is page 29. And then moving on to Schedule U, page 31, no change. Schedule V, we're at changes again. So utility fees and charges. So water per cubic meter has been set at tentative $3.34 per cube. This is a 2.8% increase, similar to what we've had assessed in the past. This number we're hoping will be confirmed by the Water Commission this week. So,
Thursday.
yeah, Thursday. So if there is a change to that, we will update this bylaw before our Monday morning, or our Monday meeting. And the bulk water volume charge per cubic meter has increased the 3% annual increase that we've projected. So those are the only changes on this page. And then Schedule W, event center facility fees and charges. So this is a whole new schedule regarding the event center. I'll let you read through that, but if there's any other questions or concerns, I am happy to answer.
So dancing really makes a difference.
It does. It's the tariff that we have for having the licensed music in the building.
I can see a lot of places, a lot of events not having no more dancing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Sosky?
So in theory, with this bylaw, if it's passed, then the fees would become like immediate for 2021, is that correct?
I believe this is, we have on the very first, it says effective as of January 1. Let me, this bylaw shall come into effect January 1st, 2022. So it's on page 2.
Always the page,
The
okay,
effective
the time
date.
ahead.
Yes, so it's effective January 1.
Okay, yeah, that was my number one check, because I think that's important as long as they always become the 2022, just it'll help organizations for planning. I know in the case of, I was actually looking even at the arena facilities, I think that we're still very low in comparison to other communities. However, while I said that, I wouldn't also not want to see something passed in January when you've already done budgeting from part of the year, but that answered it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, next is mine. So I know the Transcanada Yellowhead Highway Association, we had a conversation about it once. We never did come back with a decision. So we need to know right now if there is a will of council to have a representation of a councillor on this association. Does anybody remember what the price was per capita?
It's 20 cents per capita.
Okay.
20 cents per capita.
Okay. So, I know that I said I was not in favor of it. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of putting somebody on this association? Go ahead, Councilor Lemko.
Yeah, I'm like you. I used to be on that council seat on that Yellowhead Association. The challenge with that is it's so long. It starts in Manitoba and goes all the way to Prince Rupert. And a lot of discussion at the table is about what's going on, the lobbying for ministers in, to fix the highway in west of Jasper or something in southern Saskatchewan. So you're sort of like in a meeting that, because they're not going to be doing anything on the highway here. You can talk about a bypass or an overpass, but it's not the flavor of, there's more pressing issues with the association. I didn't feel that we had enough skin in the game to warrant that, and that's why we chose to leave at the time, paying a fee that we had nothing that we could.
Councillor Barry?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I believe the only time there was any interest was 2 councils ago, and one councillor did have some interest in it, but I really don't think we ever saw anything that came back that benefited our town. I agree with Councillor Lemko. I'm really not certain that the very small communities along the highway are really given much consideration on it. So I'm not really in favor of being part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, and like, I was on it I went to 2 meetings, and there was a lot of talk about what the spouses would be doing at the conference, or was it even a conference? It was a meeting at a very nice hotel in BC and stuff. I think at one time maybe it had some merit, but we already got the highway here, and if it was more local conversation about what was going on in our area, but it's all over the place, so I don't really feel that we got anything out of it really for our community. So if anybody would like to move forward with it, we have 3 against right now, is 4.
I don't really care. That's a nominal amount.
That's okay.
Okay, so that's it. We are not gonna put anybody on there, so we won't become a member, so. Okay, next, we have a letter from the mayor of Cold Lake. Greg, what's it, Copeland? Yeah. Okay, so I am writing on behalf of council this is to Dr. Scott McLeod, he's with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta. So I'm writing on behalf of council to inform you that our regular council meeting held November 23rd, 2021, Cold Lake City Council passed a motion requesting the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta consider streamlining the assessment process for physicians moving to Cold Lake from outside of Canada. Okay, so basically, we had a conversation earlier in the day. I'm not going to read this whole thing because what it is what they would like to do is have the assessment done in their hometown at their own clinic. And the province has set these guidelines, and they're saying that that's not the way it's going to work. Really, that's what you told us, correct?
I think it's actually the College of Physicians, which is a separate body. So it's separate from the province. It's separate from their licensing. So there are a number of different administrative processes that culminate in the ultimate approval of a physician being able to practice in a community. And while I don't dispute that it's convoluted and it's complicated, I'm not certain that there is a possibility of changing necessarily. I mean, I definitely support Mayor Copeland. He's been at this game for a long time. He certainly understands, and again, they have very specific concerns in Cold Lake. They're a much younger city than Vegreville, for example. They're one of the youngest cities in the province. And for that reason, they've got a specific set of needs with medical staff. All that said, we've had a lot of success with RPAP and also through, actually, I think everybody received an invitation to information with Alberta Health Services in the zone. So there are increasing communications between the zone and Alberta Health Services, zone leadership, and elected officials. So I'd be willing to take a little bit of a gander and see if there's something else that we can help the mayor with too. I don't mind doing that.
Well, I guess what it comes down to is what they're looking for is will we write a letter in support of foregoing the assessment process outside of their community? I mean, is it the will of council to support this by writing to the minister, Councillor Barry?
Thank you, Your Worship. I certainly can see what Mayor Copeland is referring to here in terms of if it is at all possible to make it easier for doctors to be brought into Cold Lake or into any community in a faster manner and simpler manner. I would also agree that we have doctors here that could definitely provide that type of assessment and make it a local process. Whether that is what the procedure should really be, I can't say. But it would definitely be nice to be able to have the procedure be able to move forward more smoothly and faster. So I could see supporting this in terms of asking for it to be reviewed as to whether there is a better process or a faster process. From that, I don't think there'd be any problem in asking for a review.
Well, what I would question is, what is the reason? What's the merits behind having the assessment done from another community? Like, why would they want this process? Is it so it would be unbiased, or?
Yeah, it's meant to be, and again, this is where the multiple steps. So for example, we kind of estimate, and we were joking about this the other day, that we're getting another doctor right away. So really in a year, that right away will be happening. But it is for that integrity of practice, so that, for example, Dr. Hollins was in Wetaskiwin, and Dr. Nadu, when she came, I think was in Viking or Two Hills. So we have in the past tried to get them a little bit closer, because the other challenge is that when you have an international medical grad that comes, they come with a spouse. And so then their spouse is also coming without potentially a vehicle or support, being plunked in one community, and their spouse is in another community for 3 months, which is really a lot of additional cost if you're moving internationally, and a lot of people don't consider that. I'm not certain how many international grads are coming, just based on a meeting that we had yesterday with the Council of Chairs with our zone leadership. There have been increasing efforts. Dr. Julie Bestard is her name. She's the one that took over when Dr. Edgecombe went to Ontario. She has stated actually that Central Zone is doing really well, and I think Cold Lake is in the North Zone. So Central Zone has done really well for recruiting and had some good results, but there is a raised awareness again after Alberta Municipalities Conference and RMA. Both conferences had a lot of questions about ambulance availability. Physician recruitment continues to be a major concern in rural communities, as well as COVID, of course, and all the staffing concerns in some of the rural sites, seniors care, as well as healthcare aides. So the integrity, I think, is really what it comes down to for physician evaluation. I can definitely draft an email and find out some more.
Well, I mean, who are we to question the College of Physicians? If this is their process and they feel this works, that they get a good read on other doctors and it's not a biased situation being in. I mean, I get it that maybe Mayor Copeland is having some problems and having these doctors assessed in a further way. But I mean, I don't know if it's our job to question the College of Physicians if this is what their process is. I mean, would it be simpler if they could all just move here and get their assessment done here? Of course it would be, but their standards are what they are holding these doctors accountable to, and they feel that this should be done outside of the community that they're going to be living in. Who are we to question that, really?
And sorry, if I could, Your Worship, I think what I'll find out for sure if this is actually something that could be influenced or advocated for, because medical affairs is a specific department that's responsible for recruiting in Alberta Health, which is adjacent to Alberta Health Services, which again is separate from the College of Physicians, because I definitely think we can't change the College of Physicians' autonomy. They're a separate organization, but I definitely think that it's worth a question, and I'd be happy to follow up. I'll find that out.
Okay, so maybe then by Monday's meeting, when we're gonna make a motion to receive and file this, that maybe you'll have some more information first. Councilor Barry, then you'll be.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Listening to Councilor Riddick, it definitely popped into my attention here that by having the assessment done by physicians, doctors, et cetera, from outside the community, it is different than when they come here to actually work with fellow doctors. It might be questionable if your fellow doctors are the ones that are sort of looking at things and assessing you, and then you start working there. I can see that the outside assessment might be better than having it done by doctors that eventually are going to be in the same clinic. That might be one of the points.
Councillor Warwick?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just kind of wonder too, in writing the letter, whether they're kind of asking for us to advocate for them for like a one-off or a complete change of process. That's the other thing that I'm not 100% clear in. If it is one-off because they're suggesting, given their location, some of their struggles, that might be one thing for consideration, or if they're talking about an overall change. And again, it's a very convoluted process. Some of it may be beyond, it may be restrictions implied to them from the federal government as far as assessment that they may still have to do. So again, I don't know all of the ins and outs, but I just know that there's some really strong regulations, even regards to accreditation for even education, for teachers and whatnot, when you're factoring in the immigration side. So I guess that would be kind of just one of the things, if we did find out more, is whether they're asking us to support a one-off or whether they're asking us to support looking at regulation changes overall.
Okay, I'll reach out to Mayor Copeland.
Sure.
And just to see what the intent of the letter is. Is it to try to change the process? Or what the support that they're looking for in this? Okay, everybody's good with that? Councillor Curtis, you're good with that? Okay, thank you. So, next up, oh, we have another letter here, yeah. This was in my mailbox, which, well, these letters you hardly ever get when it comes to municipal enforcement, so I thought it was very important to read it. Mayor McPhee, just wanted to let you know that I received excellent service from the municipal enforcement receptionist and Officer Ken regarding a noise complaint. They're an excellent team. Best holiday wishes. Hillary McLean. So, we're gonna put this up on the wall. It's nice to get these, because usually in municipal enforcement, it's never a positive on either side, so. Again, I'd like to reach out and thank her and wish her the best of the holiday season as well, so. We'll see that come up on Monday's meeting. Okay, round table. Since we haven't heard from, much from Councillor Curtis, you'll go next. What have you been hearing in the community, Councillor?
Recently, I haven't had too much on the docket. I have been away at work a bit, and still home a lot with my brand new baby son. So personally, I haven't heard too much yet. I did hear a few things that everybody that came out to the standing parade enjoyed it, and they were very thankful for us to stand out there in that winter winds. It was fun, so that's one thing that it was very positive. Enjoyed handing out some candy to the kids and talking with residents there. So that's probably all I have for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warwick.
Actually, I had two. One was about the stationary parade, and just there was some question that had gone posed to me as far as like why we would have still gone forward with that, given that other things are able to go ahead in like bigger proportions. So, so I just thought maybe I would share that one again. And it was again that it wasn't that we had to proceed with stationary due to COVID regulations. It's that we chose to from some of the feedback that we received from people who said that they actually liked the process. We ourselves had said we enjoyed being able to see everyone, might have enjoyed it just slightly on just a little bit warmer day. But I just thought I'd bring that one forward. I also got an email on December 1st from a resident, and I said that I would bring it forward, but I've received a couple like this, and they were concerns with the town mandate with vaccine passports. So I just wanted to let the two residents that had sent me almost the same link know that I went through it, I did read them, but just to be aware, the information that's often circulated around vaccines itself, that isn't anything the town has been addressing. We haven't been addressing people's research one way or the other on vaccines. So in a lot of the information that's come forward, what we address is how we apply regulations that have been put forward by the province. So I'm bringing forward, because I got two in a row, and they were talking about our concern about our implementation of vaccine passports. So the town, again, just to confirm, because it was about 17-minute review and some paperwork with it too, but the town doesn't set regulations as to what the businesses have to put forward. We only set regulations into our own facilities, and when we looked at the facilities, it wasn't a debate over people's beliefs with vaccines or not. It's a debate over ability for the highest number of usage for the most users. So I just did want to bring it forward because I got it from two people, so I am going, but just to kind of know that these regulations or the word vaccine passport is in relation to what we see for provincial standards, not regulations we've put. So that's actually all I have, because I was also on just a slight little vacation.
Looks like you were in the wind a bit.
Yeah, it was that cold from standing in the stationary parade.
Actually, I got a few things. First, going to start with one thing that a citizen called me, actually. And it's a concern from 52nd Avenue North on 50th Street towards the health center, or the health center. On the west side of the street, there was a citizen called me saying there was a person on a mobility scooter stuck on the sidewalk. Okay, I'm not done. And I know from previous years, over the years, that piece of sidewalk never gets done. And if you look at the business that's on the west side of that street also, just digs a little trench with a shovel. That really, if you were with crutches, you couldn't walk down there. So, and till this day, that's still not shoveled from the last snowfall. So there's a concern to me when a citizen calls me and he's helping a person get out with a mobility scooter with that sidewalk is a route to downtown, to the downtown businesses. So, and now the health center there cleans their stuff, but that section doesn't seem to get done. And from my understanding, that's CN section. So it's an ongoing problem, obviously. So, and if we're worried about people getting downtown to businesses, wintertime's a factor in that, because not everybody drives. And on the other side of the street, there's no sidewalk through the gas station parking lot. It's pretty slick, probably. So, anyways, that's one thing. So I'd like to see if there's anything that.
So when you got the complaint and you went through the proper channels within our organization, and what were you told?
By law enforcement would have to call CN.
Okay.
So, and from there, I didn't talk to the other citizen back on that. So I don't know where that's at this moment.
What's the deal there, Dale?
We struggle with CN to clean their snow.
Bar none. Okay.
It is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain sidewalks that are on or in front of the boulevard on their property, and this would fall under CN's right of way.
So we're just gonna send them a bill, or what's the deal? Because go ahead, Phil.
I'll have municipal enforcement address this in the morning, and I'll get you an answer, okay?
Okay, sure. Well, we'll go back to Dale then.
The Public Works did go and clean it. It was done right after we received the same complaint from the person in the scooter. It's not our responsibility, but we can't have someone sitting there stuck. So Public Works did go and clean it for them, but it'd be nice to have them contacted by our Department of Enforcement.
So, I mean, that's an ongoing problem, and believe me, CN is not gonna have employees out there doing that. So, to move forward, maybe we should just send them a bill and do it for them.
See how that goes.
Okay, I appreciate, Dale, that you guys went out there, and I know we always try to get to most of the complaints, so, at the fastest we can, so. Go to your next one there.
Next one, on a positive note, the Young Farts RV Parts requested myself and asked me to send out an invite of theirs to council for December 16th to have to their Dragon's Den watch party. for anyone who doesn't know, that Young Farts RV Parts is gonna be on Dragon's Den this December 16th. So it's a pretty big thing for a small business from Vegreville to be on national TV. And Vegreville will get a mention to it, so everybody tune in, and hopefully all of council can get together and be part of that. I think that would be a really good thing for our community. On another note, I don't know what anyone's heard about the haunted hike, but Young Farts will not be going ahead with the haunted hike from here on out. And they're hoping that it would stay in the community, and if somebody would actually take over the props, I don't know of how that would go and stuff, and they're looking for a place. Someone to be interested to take it over and not lose it from this community, because it does bring a lot of people to the community. So that is something else that I don't know how we could help them in finding someone to take that over, like a community group or something. So that's what I have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rudick.
I had a couple of questions about the business recognition. I've had some people say they really appreciate the positive attention of council on businesses, but they're curious why some of those businesses have been here for a long time and we haven't been acknowledging them. And I said, well, COVID kind of put a damper on that, and we want to make sure that we're catching all of the businesses that have been open, and some of them have been open for a couple years already, and we want to make sure that we're being consistent and acknowledging a range of businesses. I think we've had some interesting afternoons where we've gone from exercise studios to cannabis dispensaries in the same day, and everything in between. So just pointed out to the people that were asking that we as council again support all types of businesses, and if we're missing anybody, to make sure that they're reaching out to us, because there are some that we don't actually require business licenses for. So if there's some certain professional designations, they would be potentially outside of that realm because they don't require a business license according to the standards implemented downstairs at IP&D. So that answered that question. The other question that I had is about the availability of testing for COVID and vaccination locally, and neither of those are available locally. And I directed them at this time to ask the MLA if there was anything that could be further done, because there are no opportunities for the children between 5 to 11 that are now eligible to be vaccinated locally, which is a bit of a challenge for people that want to get their kids vaccinated. So those are the questions that I had.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
One of my items was discussed in the derelict housing. Another one is simply about the plaques, and it was encouraging to be part of the process and handing out plaques. But what really was encouraging for me was the response from the business owner and their positive outlook on the business that they have set up in the community and how well it's going for them. And it was refreshing to see that even the businesses through this COVID times are somehow managing. And as we continue to grow, those businesses will hopefully flourish.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Going last, it seems that most things are already discussed. I had some of those other concerns brought to me as well. But giving out the plaques as well, I'm going to echo Councillor Lemko. I think that that's been very positively received. I've actually had people talking to me in the stores and that, acknowledging that it's a very nice thing to do. Also, I've had some individuals who don't live in this town actually commenting that just how vibrant we seem to be jumping up and having a lot of businesses being built and opened, and we're quite impressed. And one of them is actually from Vermilion, so. Other than that, I really don't have much to say. I'll leave some of the other information that I wanted to speak on in my councillor report on Monday night, where would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, I've heard a few complaints, and there was a couple of snow removal complaints, and some advice on how we could remove snow. And But when it was explained to some of these citizens that we can't work them all night because they drive the garbage truck and their other duties in the daytime may not get missed. They didn't catch on to that part. Was contacted by a reporter out of CBC Edmonton and wanted to do a story on our post office closing. So I said, well, just give me a minute, and I phoned the post office and I talked to the staff, which I know very well over there, and they said no, they were not. They were mistakenly put on a list that other post offices, through the federal mandated situation with vaccinations, that if you're not vaccinated, you can no longer work. And of course, Vegreville wasn't one. So when I got back to the reporter and told her how proud I was of everybody here at our facility being double vaccinated, and they were extending their hours open on Sundays, and she didn't no longer want to do a story. It's kind of funny. I was quite pumped about a goodwill story about how this is working in our community, and she turned me down. She said, no, that's really not the story I was looking for. So, and then the same staff had a problem the next day. A very good friend of ours had a heart attack at the facility, and there was a long wait for an ambulance, a terrible long wait. And again, I know some citizens contacted me about it, and the staff at the post office was very upset about why we don't have ambulances in town. And I just want everybody to understand that through Central Dispatch, even when the town was in charge of the ambulance, we had no idea where they were going, when they were coming back, or if they were coming back. And there seems to be a lot of communities today that are having the same struggles with having no coverage within their communities right now. With they call it red flag, or I've been hearing about it. There's a name that they call it, and it's not just large urban areas. Red alert, exactly. And it's happened here a few times recently, and I don't know exactly. Would have it helped, or would have the situation been better if, for the person that died, if the ambulance had one here in town, but it had to come from Two Hills. And again, it is a situation that everybody in this province is struggling with right now, and Alberta Health is saying that they're trying their best to fix this, but the calls that are coming in are quite large. So anyway, it was a terrible situation for the staff over there and for the family of the deceased. So my condolences to everybody there that was involved in that, and we will be pushing forward always. And I would let everybody know that at AUMA it was brought up with other municipalities are seeing the same thing, and there's a lot of concern, and we will keep pushing forward to try to make it a better situation. So, and I've heard quite a few good things about the problem, and the plaques. It is a problem sometimes trying to get everybody lined up and on time and everything, but some of the comments are there is a lot of new businesses in town. So I think we just keep up the good work, and we have a process now, and as the new businesses license get issued, we'll catch up. As a matter of fact, I got a pile of them over there that we can pass out for some new businesses. So anyway, that's all I have. We'll go to Director Highlights, and we'll start with Director Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of items that council and the public know that the ice surfaces around town have passed the minimum thickness requirements. So these skating surfaces have been cleared and be open to the public in the next day or two. We'll be having a social media post put out to let people know that the pond and Elks Pond and the man-made pond and Southwest and our skating surfaces are all ready to be enjoyed with some warmer weather coming up this weekend. Since budget, I've been reviewing policies and bylaws related to community services, and I have a couple more to add to my list as of today. And let council know, Prairie Tales Animal Rescue Society have rescued 19 cats and kittens from the south side crescent along 49th that we had the two complaints that prior in November. Prairie Tails went out, had a look, and so far they've rescued 19 just in that area, so. That's all I got.
Okay, well, and I know that the new year, we're gonna look at that situation with the cats. I could have brought up, I've had a few calls with people telling me that don't do a cat bylaw, but we're definitely gonna take a look at it and see where we go. Maybe we get rid of some of these derelict houses, like some of those cats to go with. Next up, Director LaFave.
All right, I'd like to talk about the off-site project as a part of Prosperity Industrial Park. The off-site is the forced main line that would run to the lagoons and then the vaults that would connect to the primary cells. So we're happy to hear that 50% of our high-density polyethylene pipe is on the ground. That's about 1,300 meters, or about half the project. So we can, they're fusing portions together now, and then next week we'll start directional drilling and get the first leg done. So that's good news to hear. The lift station itself, if you've been watching a little bit on social media and our pages stuff, we've been posting the hoarding in, the floor pour is done, so that's moving forward. We again have the septic receiving station is built and is coming to site, which is good news. And then you get hits with things that you wouldn't think would be as big a problem, and say the Cummins standby diesel generator that would power up the station in a power failure is 34 weeks out. And ones that were 34 weeks out prior to that are getting to the 34 weeks are being told to give us a few more weeks to get it, so we're not sure. So we're looking at other options. There always is something, whether maybe it's not Cummins, maybe it's Caterpillar, Mercedes. We'll look at our options to make this happen. This generator could come down the road later because it doesn't get installed and you put a building around it. You can install it afterwards. So some of the challenges we're facing with the way things are in this construction year or two, or maybe three, but it's just good to hear that our 8 inches, the pipe is here and half of it's on the ground, so it can really get moving now. And that would be my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Corporate Services Director, who's doing this one?
I'll do it. Is it on? Yep, okay, I'll do it. So since the budget's passed, I've spent a little bit of time with the finance manager, getting her up to speed on the stuff that I do on a regular basis, on an annual basis or quarterly basis, so she's ready to go when I hang up my shoes and walk out the door. So, and I'll keep doing that. Other than that, trying to get up to speed on the stuff that the CAO is doing, so that when he departs on Friday on his vacation, I know what's going on for the rest of the year. And I just want to give council an update on where we are with our property tax situation. So to yesterday, we have collected 89.4% of our taxes. We did get confirmation from the province that they intend to pay the remaining $968,000 they owe us by the end of this year. If that is the case, we will hit 98.4% of our taxes collected in the current year, so well above the 90% requirement. If they don't pay it before the end of the year, we'll still be over 90%. We'll be at about 91.4%.
So do we apply the 15% penalty to?
Unfortunately, no.
25.
Okay, thank you very much. Town managers.
I have one item, but it's a closed session item.
Okay, is there anything else for council? Seeing no hands in the air, I would take a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Warwa moves at 4:55. Councilor Curtis? Do you have something you wanna, oh, you're just voting? You're just voting. Okay, all those in favor? Yeah, there we go.